Good morning, everybody, and thanks for joining. We're just going to be going through just closing the year in this broadcast today, and I will be presenting this process in the 2017 version of Dynamics NAV. And I'm also going to, it's kind of going to be a little bit reiterative. I'm also going to be showing the Dynamics 365 for finance and operations. That is the latest web-based version that's out there right now. So we'll give everybody a little bit of an introduction to what the web-based option looks like. And there are just a few little small things that are a little bit different about the process or filtering, and you'll be able to see those firsthand today. So again, my name is Danica. Here below is our website and my email address and my number. The best way to get in touch with me is via email. This slide is also at the end of the deck if you don't have time to write this down now. If you have any questions outside of the broadcast, but like Clayton also said, you'll be able to get this online later. So today's agenda, as I said, we're going to first be covering the close process in NAV 17, and then I'm going to go through the same exact process in Dynamics 365. So let's get started with NAV 2017. Here are some pre-close tips that are really helpful to make sure that your close process goes smoothly. What I generally recommend to people is you go into your chart of accounts, and on your chart of accounts, I would first filter all of your chart of accounts by income statement, and then check to make sure that all of the accounts that fall in there are income statement accounts, and there are not any balance sheet accounts included in there. Because during the close process, it is the income statement accounts that the function actually scrolls through and closes. So if you inadvertently have an account that's supposed to be a balance sheet tagged as an income statement, it would actually close that account, and you would have the inverse. If it was supposed to be an income statement and it's tagged as a balance sheet, then it would pull it into the close process and you would not get the correct calculation in your journal entry. Another tip is when you've done the confirmation that you have all of your income statement and balance sheet accounts set up with the proper setting, put the annual period that you're trying to close in your date filter here. Then I would make sure that your net change and balance at date columns are displayed here, and the two numbers in those two fields should match. If they don't match, what it generally means is that there are some entries that had been post-closing adjustments in a previous year that still need to be closed, and what you'll have to do is go back and close those. And what you can do is you can go back to each prior year and put in, like for instance, January 1st, 2016, and then put in a ... and then do C 12/31/2016, and it should be 0. And I'll display how to do that in just a minute when we go into NAV. Here is a list. I'm not going to read this all to you because again, if anyone wants this slide deck, I'd be more than happy to send it to you after the broadcast. Just shoot me an email. Here's just a step of some high-level tasks that you should do before you do the close year function. You want to make sure you run all of your sub-ledger reports for your AR and payables. Make sure all of your entries are posted. All sales invoices are posted, all purchase and payables, taxes calculated if you need to do any currency adjustment tasks, and all your fixed assets have been calculated and depreciated if you're running your fixed asset module out of NAV. Before you actually do the closed income statement process, what you need to do is go do a search on accounting periods, and when you get to that list, you'll see a little icon on the ribbon there to close the year. You want to select that option, and your screen should look something similar to this. And then when you select close year, you would get the latest year that needs to be, or the most recent year that needs to be closed, and you get a little message like this, and then you just hit yes. After that, you want to make sure that you have subsequent years created. You would go ahead and create year, and the next year that needs to be created would be indicated here in this start date. That should always be the first period, the first day of your fiscal year. Indicate how many periods you have in that year. 12 is the typical number of periods everyone has in their year, and the length of each period is 1 month. So that's what that 1M stands for, and you just hit OK, and it creates the year. Very easy, nothing really difficult about that. So then your close income statement function, this is actually going to create a journal entry. So what you might want to do, I recommend that you might have a separate batch altogether. And in our example, I'm going to have one that's called close or close year. First, you want to make sure that that batch is empty, that there's nothing in it before you go and post it. After you do the close year task that we just saw on the previous screen, when you do close income statement, the last fiscal year that's closed there should by default come in with the 12/31 date there. Then you're just going to specify your journal template, a batch. If you have a number series attached to this particular batch, it'll automatically pull a document number in here. And you also want to specify your retained earnings account and a description for the entry that's going to be created. If you're using dimensions in any of your reporting and you want your financial statement to be closed by those dimensions, you would pick the little ellipse button here and select all of the options on what level of detail you want your entry to be created in. And then the last thing you want to do is, after you've closed the year and finalized everything, you want to make sure that you prevent anybody from posting in that prior period. So there's two different places in NAV where you can indicate where your users are allowed to post to. So the highest level is in the general ledger setup. So if you do a search on general ledger setup in the general tab, you'll see these two fields, allow posting from and allow posting to. If you have a large accounting staff, at a minimum, this is where you would want to manage your dates. And like I said, if you have a large accounting staff, it might make sense to keep this to the current period that you want people to be posting to. So once you've closed the year, have maybe January 1st to January 31st of 2018 there. And then if other people need larger periods or smaller periods or different periods open, you can go to user setup and then indicate each user ID and the dates that they're allowed to post to and from. If there is a user record in this user setup and this allow posting date has dates in it, this will take precedence for that particular user only on what is set up in your general ledger setup. So here are a couple of helpful hints just to reiterate to review your chart of accounts. Filter by your fiscal year. Make sure your closing income statement batch is empty, and then modify your allow posting to from dates. So I'm just going to go into NAV real quick, bring that over so you can see firsthand some of the suggestions that I have made and how you would do that here. So in your chart of accounts, I happen to have views already set for income statement and balance sheet. But so for instance, what I was referring to earlier is I'm going to go scroll all the way up to the top here. I'm just going to right click, filter on this field. And then you can see my whole entire list is filtered by balance sheet. And I'm going to just scroll down to the end. And here you can see, for instance, I have one. This clearly to me looks like an income statement account. So what you would want to do is you would just want to go in here and change this to an income statement account and hit OK. And then you're going to want to clear the filter and do the same exact thing for an income statement account and just make sure that everything here appears to be an income statement account. So to put a date filter on here for the current year, I would come in here and just as a shortcut, I could do a Y, and that's going to give me my whole year's date. And this is where I was saying you want to scroll down here and make sure that these two numbers are the same. And like I said earlier, if these don't match, the balance at date would be picking up something from a prior year. Actually close the year, we want to go to do a search on your accounting periods. And this is where you would go and close your year. Now, this particular database is already closed for 2017. You can see 2017 here already has the close year column already checked, but what you would do is go to close year, and this actually wants to close 2018, and that's okay. And then you would just select yes, and then it would check that box. If you didn't have years beyond 2017 created, you could just come here, do your create year. There have been years created all the way out to 2022, and then you would just hit OK, and then it just creates another fiscal year for you. Now to actually create the journal entry, I am going to go to close income statement. And here, because I did that close year task here, when I go to close income statement, 2017 is my last year close, so it's automatically going to pull in that date here. I need to identify my journal template, and here's the batch that I wanted to go into, and I'm just going to go in real quick here to my batch and go to edit journal. I want to make sure that this is empty, because if you would inadvertently do this task twice before you posted it, you would run the risk of appending the batch and actually duplicating your close entries, and then you would have to actually go in and reverse it and do it all over again. If you're reporting at the dimensional level, this is where I was saying if you want to close your income statement at that level, you don't need to do it by all your dimensions, but whatever level you want to close your income statement accounts at, you would do that here. This is the retained earnings account that you want it to close into. So once you do that, you would just hit OK. It would create the journal, and then I can go to my general journal and go to my close entry, and then here it is. And it actually puts my retained earnings account in here as well. Now, this is just going to give me a grand total for what goes into my retained earnings. If you need to manage this and you want a higher level of detail, or you have more than one retained earnings account, you can come in here and manually make any changes to this journal here before you post it. And then you would just go ahead and post it, and you're pretty much done. Then the last thing, like I said, that you might want to do is go to your general ledger settings and manage your post to from dates here. And then in the same, if you need other users to have dates beyond that or have different close dates, this is where I would go to user setup. And then you can put different date ranges here, either smaller date ranges or wider, longer date periods where you would have different users that could post to different ranges. So this is what this looks like in standard nav on a client-based interface. So now I'm just going to go through real quick some of the different features or different ways you would do it using the web-based version that's currently available out for some people. Pre-close tips are pretty much all the same. You want to filter by income statement and balance sheet to do the same exact process that we did there. Make sure that all of your accounts are tagged correctly. In the web-based version, we don't have that flow field or date filter function. So the one difference there is what I did was I created a account schedule column layout where I did a net change balance at date, and using an account schedule I would be able to see that difference. And then what I did is I also created a variance column so I could very easily see if there was a difference between net change and balance at date. And if you're not comfortable using the date filters in NAV, you could also do a very similar task in standard NAV as well. The filtering here is a little bit different in the web-based version, and I'll show you that real quick also. Then you would run this account schedule, pick that column layout, and again, you would, same concept as we did on the chart of accounts list. You just check your net change, balance at date, make sure those two numbers are the same. If they're not the same, then you need to go back and close entries from a prior year. This close year process is all still the same. Make sure you do adjust exchange rates, post all of your receivables, payables, calculate taxes, and do any fixed asset calculations. Here the task is the same, but you can see the desktop has a little bit of a different look and feel here, and some of the splash screens that you get at just look a little bit different because it's a web-based product. But same thing, close year task on your accounting period list, you would hit yes in order to close it. And then same thing here, you would need to create your year. Same concept, give you the starting date of the next year, the number of months, and what the number of the period length that you want each period to be. And then again, you would do your close income statement, do the same exact thing, go into your batch, make sure it's empty, select any dimensional reporting that you want to close by, and then also manage your allow posting to from dates in the same manner in which you would in standard NAV by going to your general ledger setup or your user setup. And again, the same helpful hints here to check your balance sheet and income statement, setting up your column layout, and making sure your batch for your closed income statement is empty, and modify your posting to from dates. So now I'm going to bring over the web-based version of NAV here so you can see some of the different nuances here. So I'm going to go directly to my chart of accounts. So we don't have the filter pane like you're used to seeing in client-based version of NAV. So in order to filter by balance sheet or income statement, I would have to go up here and set a filter. No, I want to go to you have to go to the correct column that you want to filter by. And then here now I can go income statement, and I'm not going to go through both steps, but then you can see now here I can filter by all of my income statement accounts. Now, like I said, since we don't have the same flow filters as we have here, I don't have an option to doing that. So that's where I made an account schedule. So I'm going to go to my account schedule, and you can see my column layout here. This is really pretty simple. I'll just open it up real quick here in NAV so that you can see what it looks like. I just created 3 easy columns. One of them I put my net change, the other I put my balance at date, and then here's just a variance formula so I can see pretty easily if there's something that goes awry here. I want to look at this for 2017 because that's going to be the year that I'll be closing, and I'm going to preview this report. And the numbers are really, really small, but there's nothing in the variance column, but same, like I've said a couple times already, if these numbers are different, that means you have something in a prior year that needs to be closed. So the next step here, we have the same search feature. You don't have the little box in the top right-hand side, but I can go to my little search bar up here and go to my accounting periods. And I'm going to get my accounting period list here. I can go to my close year, and this is indicating that I want to close 2017. I'm just going to hit yes real quick. And if I want to do a filter here on my starting date, I'm going to go greater than 12/31/16, just so that I can check real quick. And I can see that my 2017 is closed. If I need to create future years, same thing. I'm going to start creating. 2021 is going to be my next one that I'm going to create. Just go ahead and do that. You can create as many periods out into the future that you want to. And then I'm going to go close income statement. And again, I'm going to, now that I've closed my 2017, 12/31/17 is my date that closes up. Pre-fills here for me. I don't even have to think about it. I'm going to go to my close year batch, make sure that my journal is empty. And then I'm going to go ahead and do and again, you can do pick the dimensions that you want to close by here as well. And I'm going to hit OK. It's going to tell me that my journal has been successfully created. And I'm going to go to General Journals and look at my close year. And then you can see here that the closed year closes with the C/31/2017 date. It always has a C in front of it, indicating that it is the close function. So that's how you would determine in prior years if everything is closed properly. You would go back, and I'm going to bring, I'll actually bring standard nav back here because it's a little bit easier to show there. So in prior years, if you want to make sure that a year is closed, I would go to my date filter and go 01/01/16 to 12/31/16, and then you can see there's some net income here. If I change this date and put a C in front of it, this should be 0, and that's how you can easily tell if there's some prior year entries, which year would be the offending year that you have to go back and reclose. Then again, in both versions, you would want to go back and you allow posting to from dates to make sure that once everything is all closed, you don't have people erroneously going back and changing your entries or posting to prior years. So that's it for our close year. If anyone has any questions, please feel free, or if you have any suggestions for future webinars, please feel free to leave any notes in the chat box. Our January webinar is going to concentrate on our year-end process of doing the 1099s and the different ways you would have to go back and correct any vendors who may have been missed and not set up properly. Again, here is all of my contact information. If you've registered for the webinar, you'll get a link to the webinar if you want to watch it again. If you want to write down my email address, feel free to contact me. If you want a copy of the slide deck, I'd be more than happy to send it to you. Here is all of our social media links, so feel free to like us or send any comments on any of our social media sites.